and there's a little Zoom voice letting you know that we are recording. I am going to share my slides. I'm just going to get them ready. It's like driving a car and talking, doing all these things at once, I have to say. Okay, share my screen. And it should appear in any minute now. It should be appearing. Everyone can see that okay? You can give me a nod or a thumbs up. Thanks, Cecilia. Thank you so much for joining us today. And like Cecilia said, get a pen ready because we always can offer as much value as we can into 90 minutes. We want to be able to give you some information, some tools, some strategies that you can apply into the workplace and into your personal lives as well. So you want to be as present as you possibly can for this training. Now, Karen, some of this stuff you may have seen before because the material that I presented to you in Tennant Creek is some of this stuff. So it'll be a good refresher for you. And I'd love any feedback of whether or not you've applied any of that knowledge, any of those tools, if they've worked for you. So let me know as we go through the material if any observations that you've made. Feel free to pop anything in the chat, open up your mic at any time. Just a little bit of background for anyone that hasn't met Cecilia and myself before. This is the two of us in Phuket. We're a recent collaboration, and I'd just like to let you know that we're Gen Xers. Now, a lot of Gen Xers don't necessarily, they either brag about it or they try to hide it because of their age. The reason we tell you this is because we come from an era before technology was used as much as it is today. So maybe we had fax machines, but that was pretty much it. Or maybe one of the brand new Apple computers, but we had to get very good at people skills when we entered the workforce. So I just share that with you to let you know that we are very passionate about the human side of work and for you to apply those behavioral skills into the workplace and to improve upon that. As technology is advancing, we're seeing those skills drop off. So you're in a really good place today, investing in yourself to learn on these skills. I'm going to mention some other people just quickly to give you a little bit of a background on the knowledge that I'm sharing with you and where it comes from. So it is you'll see the Hinwood Institute is the name of the company. Sorry, I'm letting people into the room and I'm getting a bit distracted while I'm doing it. So sorry if I'm seeming not talking straight. The company is named the Hinwood Institute, and it's actually in honor of these two people, Dr. John and Judy Hinwood. I just wanted to mention them to you briefly because John and Judy were my mentors for many, many years, and I studied with them at the Stress Management Institute. Now, they have been working in the wellbeing practice for years. They've published lots of books. Some of them you can find on our website. They've spoken around the world. John founded the Expect a Miracle movement and published a series of books on that. And when John passed away, there was a whole legacy of work that we didn't know what we were going to do with. And there was a few of trusted people that were talking about what we can do with this legacy of work. And Michael Massey and I decided to partner to create the Hinwood Institute, named in their honour, to protect that legacy of work, but also to build on our own knowledge that we've gained over many, many years. So I might talk about Dr. John and Judy Hinwood throughout this masterclass, and so then you'll know who I'm talking about. A lot of the knowledge I'm sharing with you today comes from years and years of research of what they've been doing. And I can safely say to you that when John and Judy started the Stress Management Institute, I think 15 years ago, they were predicting that the corporate world and the business world was going to pay more attention to stress in the workplace. And I could not see it happening. But look where we are today, and we have a change in Australian legislation around psychological safety in the workplace, the right to disconnect, because people are realizing that stress costs us a lot of money. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that later on. One of the things that John, Cecilia, Michael, and I have realized is that there are many things that impact upon our capacity to function well in the working world and in our personal lives. We used to have very generic terms around this wheel, like communication, leadership, time management, but Cecilia and I decided to come up with some terms that are more reflective on what we see in the workplace. And we often talk about this in our presentations. I will always use it in any presentations I do, because when I first started out in business, I was focused purely on time management. And I soon realized that people could not manage their time if they were stressed. And if they were stressed, it was really difficult to manage their time. They went hand in hand. So you need to be able to feel good at work, feel motivated and inspired in order to be able to tame your time. We also need to be able to work better together, to be productive and innovative and problem solving, work respectfully with each other. We need strong communication skills. Cecilia and I do a lot of work in this space in terms of how to have difficult conversations, how to negotiate, how to assert yourself, how to manage conflict. All those things will impact upon your capacity to work well. It's essential human skills like emotional intelligence and adaptive thinking, understanding different behavioral styles. Those things will also help you to be more effective. And mission control is really about you leading your space. Often people say, I'm not a leader, I'm not in a leadership position at work, but there's always someone looking to you for advice and direction. And so you need to be the captain of your own ship and quite possibly captain other people. What we see is these top three are the most common that people say to us. This is the common language that we see. I'm overwhelmed, I'm overworked, or I'm just over this, over this roller coaster, ups and downs, ons and offs. And that can make us feel like we're not being the best person that we can be. We can feel negligent and we're just not on path. We do a lot of work with people, helping them to feel more on path, more aligned, and less chaotic. We want to move you. We talk about this being, this side of the page being the pain that you're experiencing. This is the prize. This is what you want to work towards. We want you to feel motivated to go to work, not exhausted, not smashed. We want you to be smashing it. We want you to be able to make strategic choices, not just for your work, but for yourself and the direction that you wish to go. And that way you're going to feel more confident and people are going to look to you for direction. So you have this opportunity to be able to adopt some simple skills to move across to the other side. So I'm going to be a little bit doom and gloomy to start with. Bear with me. We've got to look at where things are. Quite often the work that we do is about a practice of mindfulness to be able to observe where are things right now, where can I raise my awareness around what's going on around me. Now, this statistic is a little bit old, and sometimes people will say to me, perhaps you can use something more contemporary in terms of the research and knowledge. And trust me, I'm going to show you some more research, but I still love this one. It's very specific, and I think it hits home for me and for others. So this was done over 10 years ago by Lifeline Australia. And what I like about this research is it shows that 90% of Australians feel stress in one important area of their life. That's so many people, right? A majority of people feel stress in whether it's relationships, work, health, money, those kind of the wheel of life kind of key headings. So if you're feeling stress in any one of those areas, I can say to you that's pretty normal. You're not unique in that sense. You don't need to feel like it's only happening to you. But then 40%, almost half, feel very stressed in at least one of those areas. So when I do this training in person, I sometimes get people who feel safe and comfortable to put up their hands to say, how many of you feel this level of stress? There's going to be a good percentage of the people around you, or even yourself, that are experiencing a high level of stress in at least one area of their life. The goal, I like to think of stress as a bit of a dial. It always is referred to, we don't want to demonize stress here. It's not a bad thing. Stress needs to be a dial that we can turn up when we need to and turn it down when we don't. It can be useful when we need it to. It's about you being in control of it and making it work for you rather than debilitating you. So here's a few more statistics. This comes from as much research as we can get, contemporary research, but since COVID, so much more is coming out. So there's just some ideas and some information in how much stress is actually costing us in Australia. And I know that this also exists for the rest of the world. We do have people that join us with these masterclasses from around the world. Cecilia, I'm sure you can validate that it's not unique to Australia. And we've seen this with Gallup as well. The recent studies that have come out from Gallup are showing that people are more and more stressed, and even our leaders are very stressed as well in terms of managing their teams. So, and this is really interesting too, isn't it? Stress burnout is reported by 1 in 3 employees who take sick days. 1 in 3. So when people are taking sick days, it's not necessarily a cold or the flu. They're burning out. They are burning out. We know that stress can cause long-term illness. And I think this is a really interesting one as well. Stress-related absenteeism is 9.3 days per year per employee. Massive. You can see why organizations are starting to invest money into this, because that costs a lot of money when people are taking that time out or are going on stress leave. So more and more people are investing into this now. And this one's really interesting. 2019, the World Health Organization, they recognized that burnout is an occupational phenomenon. It's workplace related. No surprises there, right? But the World Health Organization is recognizing that this is where it's coming from. So, the goal for you today, and what I want you to focus on, is to not ignore the signs, the symptoms, to understand stress. And as I said in the beginning, to raise your mindfulness and awareness so that you can do something with it. You can be in control of that stress. As a workplace mediator, I can say to you that one of the common things that I talk to people about is about boundaries. Where has someone crossed the line? What can you tolerate and what can't you tolerate in the workplace? The same goes for you in terms of your own boundaries. Now, I can say to you that I'm a bit of a stress addict. I like being stressed because I love the adrenaline. I love the buzz. Doing this with you right now is incredibly stressful, but I enjoy it. I really enjoy that sensation. So I have to work really hard to wind that back down. And I'm aware of the signs and symptoms for me. But what happens, particularly for me, is the benchmark of what is normal and safe and healthy gets stretched. Gets stretched and stretched. And I say it's a bit like going to a Chinese restaurant. When you have a lovely meal in a Chinese restaurant, you've had enough, you're full, but you go, oh, just another mouthful. And the next thing you're going, oh my God, I've eaten too much. We keep pushing ourselves. So what I want you to think about, and this is where I want you to get your pen and paper handy. I'm going to give you some words are going to pop up on the screen, and I want you to write down any that resonate with you. And how I describe this to people is when you've got, the dashboard on your car, when you're driving a car and a light comes on and it's flashing to let you know the engine's overheated or there's no oil in the car. There's a bit of a red light on the dashboard. The symptoms of stress is your red light on the dashboard. You've neglected things and now the beep, 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 something's going off. So I want you to think about, what are your flags? These words are going to appear, And I'm curious to know, I would love to hear if anyone wants to share in the chat, or if you want to open up your mic and share, that you're more than happy. I can share with you. Why is that stopping? There we go. Keep going. I think because I was playing with the chat on Zoom. To see if anyone was popping anything in there. So for me, I'll share with you mine. When I know that I am stressed, when I dream that I'm missing my plane, when I've got a plane to catch and I dream that I've missed my flight. In fact, the other day I had that dream, and in my dream I was thinking, oh, I always dream this, and now it's actually happened. I get tight muscles in my chest, in my sternum, because my chest muscles tighten up. I get very impatient with my family. I have a short fuse. That's when I know that I'm stressed. I'm less tolerant. Some people lose their appetite. If I'm really, really stressed, I'll lose my appetite. Other people eat a lot or drink or smoke a lot as a way of self-comforting. So do people resonate with some of these? I'm just going to have a little look in the chat and see what people have said. Nicholas said, tired, impatient, lose appetite. Heather swears. Heather, I haven't got it in this slide, but there's actually research that shows that swearing helps you manage your stress. Like a study was done to show that if you swear, it helps you manage your pain. Right. So, so that's all good. If that's, if that works for you. But yeah, swearing. I've just come back from visiting my dad on the farm, and trust me, farmers are good swearers. So yeah, feel free to share any of those. So I want you to write down or start to observe what are your triggers? Or sorry, what are your symptoms? When do you know that you are stressed? Another one that I find really interesting, and I noticed it on the plane coming home yesterday, people will tap their if you can hear me doing that, tapping their pen on the desk or jiggling their knees. And I noticed this lady who, she was a businesswoman, she seemed very in control, but as we were taking off, her leg was going. I thought, oh, she's a little bit anxious, she's a little bit stressed with the plane taking off. And so the thing is, what's really interesting about all of these is you can also observe these in your colleagues. You can see if you're noticing any of these symptoms in your colleagues as well. May not be your red flag, but it might be theirs. Kelly said, yeah, the pen tapping stresses everybody else out. Yeah. So you got to think about what it is for you and how you know when the alarm is going off, basically. All right. So now I want you to think about what actually triggers this. Again, I want you to get your pen handy to see if you resonate with these. And these were actually developed back in 1979 by Dr. Carl Albrecht. And he was actually looking specifically at people in the workplace. He was a management consultant, and he looked at how the workforce was experiencing stress. What was it that was causing their stress? So the first one we're going to look at is anticipatory stress. Probably familiar with this one. This is where you're worrying about something that's going to happen. You know something is going to occur, or you think it's going to occur, and you're worrying about it. You're worrying about what could go wrong. There's something imminent. So it could be that you're going to have a performance management meeting at work, whether you're the leader or you're the employee that's going into that meeting, and you feel anxious about it. Is it that you're going for a job interview? It could be any of those things that are impacting upon you. Now, what's really interesting is a lot of psychologists will talk about anxiety is overthinking and ruminating about things in the future, worrying about things in the future, and that depression is focusing on things in the past. And it has also been attributed to ancient Chinese philosophers, I think, as well. So I don't think it's a contemporary idea. It's something that people have talked about for some time. But it makes sense because this is why psychologists will often support people to implement practices of mindfulness and to be grounded and present, to be able to mitigate the anticipatory stress or depression. The next one, this one I know I've already talked about quite a bit about the time stress. When we don't feel in control of our time, this can really exacerbate our stress. If we feel like we've run out of time, we are running out of time, there's not enough time to do things, and the way that people think about this is really interesting. I recognized when I first started coaching people specifically in time management that stress was coming into play. And quite often their inability to manage their time was exacerbating their stress. So they do go hand in hand. This one's an interesting one as well, encounter stress. So you can see in this picture, I've used this picture to help illustrate this. Encounter stress revolves around people and over contact with people. When people are burnt out at work, one of the symptoms that people will talk about is having to be present and on in the workforce all the time, being available to people. And particularly those that hold a lot of responsibility at work will say that work gets the best of them and home gets what's left over. For working mothers that may have small children that are very dependent on them, they have their children dependent on them and wanting a piece of them, then they go to work and work wants a piece of them. And so people will often say, everyone wants a piece of me and there's nothing left of me for myself. And it's not uncommon for example, working mums, and it's also working dads as well. I don't want to discriminate, but working parents, let's say, who have to be present for so many people, by the time they drop into bed at night and their significant other comes in to give them a cuddle, they're like, just don't touch me. Just don't touch me. They cannot handle anymore. We see encounter stress a lot with people that work on front desks and having to deal with disgruntled customers, or they're on the phone a lot with disgruntled customers and having to handle that. And we now know that that's significant for people in terms of a work-related stressor. So if you're having to be engaged with people a lot, then you're at a higher risk of experiencing encounter stress to trigger your stress. It's basically contact overload. And situational stress is when you are worrying about the situation. The situation itself is causing you stress. So this is what we see when people are in workplace conflicts. They're experiencing situational stress. It is the environment. Perhaps you're going through some change at work. You're going through change management, a new location, a new environment, a new job. All these situations are causing you stress within the workplace. Now, it could also be stuff that's going on at home. So it could be that situation that's creating the stress, but it's the circumstance that you find yourself in. So hopefully you've taken down some notes in relation to that, excuse me, and that gives you an idea. So we're kind of working backwards with this diagram. We've got all by the time it gets onto the dashboard with the red light on the dashboard, things have already got, whoa, the alarm's going off, the motor's overheating. But this is saying, what is triggering this? What is causing this? We take the car to the mechanic and they go, there's a hole in this hose or whatever it is that is causing this stress. Now what we're going to look at is, how do you actually experience this stress? And we're looking at the classifications of stress now. So these are all different types of research that have come into play to be able to help us understand. And there's so much more out there. These come from Hans Selye. He was an endocrinologist that moved from Hungary to Canada in the 1930s. He's regarded as one of the first people to start to study and define stress, because it's really difficult to define it and understand it. And he published a book in 1973 called Stress Without Distress. So he was probably one of the first people to recognize that stress is something that we can use to our benefit if we understand it better. So I'm just going to take you through some of those classifications. So the first one that I want to share with you is eustress, and it's this U is as in euphoria. This is very much a good stress. And I'll say to you that all of these stresses, like what I'm talking about, stress has a good and a bad side. So eustress is predominantly good. Eustress is the stress that we put ourselves under physically to achieve a particular outcome. So Cecilia's just done a lovely hike today, and she wanted to see, it was 3 lakes, wasn't it, Cecilia, that you wanted to see? And it was pouring down with rain. She was telling me this before we got on the Zoom. Absolutely pouring down with rain. She got drenched and it was cold. That was probably being cold, physically hiking, that was stressful. But she was pushing herself through and then had the euphoria of finally achieving an outcome and reaching those lakes. Is that right, Cecilia?
Yes, it was definitely worth it. I would do it again.
Yeah. So we push ourselves physically, dancing until we're exhausted on a dance floor, surfing waves in the ocean, going for a run, doing physical exercise, pushing those weights. Oh, it hurts. It's stressful, but it builds muscle. So this is a good stress. But like any stress, we can overuse it. So runners obviously get that high, but they can also get adrenal fatigue. So if we do too much, we can exhaust ourselves. I'm going to show you a little video. This is one of Dr. John's favorites. He talks about incorporating that eustress, finding ways to do something outside on your way home to work. So this is about being able to give yourself a little bit of a stimuli and leave work behind before you go into your home life. Karen, I don't know if it was you or someone else. I love this story when I was delivering training in Tennant Creek, saying that they water their plants before. Was it you, Karen, or was it your colleague?
That was Ollie.
Ollie.
Yeah.
So Ollie, Tennant Creek and Alice Springs, it doesn't take very long for us to get home. It's only a short drive, but what Ollie would do, working out often in extreme environments in Tennant Creek, before he even goes into his house, he'd go and water his plants. So he's enjoying that nature experience, being very mindful and present and grounded before he goes into home. And I love that as a great strategy. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so that I can optimize it for video. So I can share this because when I optimize for video, I can't see all your lovely faces. I'm going to share that. And I'm going to play this video for you. If you can't hear it for any reason, please let me know, but it should be all good to go. This was one of John's favorites. So this is a man choosing to do something on his way home to be able to stimulate that eustress. Oops, I've gone too far. Sorry, bear with me. Why is it not playing? There we go.
See you later. See you, mate.
Bye.
There's a reason for the sunshine sky. There's a reason why I'm feeling so high. Must be the season when that little light shines all around us. So let that feeling grab you deep inside and send you reeling where your love can't hide, and then go stealing through the moonlit nights with your love. Just let your love go like dreams and let your love show. And you'll know what I mean. It's the season. Let your love fly like a bird on the wing, and let your love find you to all living things, and let your love shine. And you'll know what I mean.
Contactless technology from Barclaycard, making payments simpler.
Can you get me a towel?
My favorite part about that video is at the end when he says, "Can you get me a towel?" So it's cute, isn't it? It's a great way of being able to, yeah, your challenge is to find something that enables you to have a little bit of healthy stimulus on the way home from work. So even if it's just like Ollie did, watering the plants, what can you do that allows you to have some positive energy building? This one, oh my goodness, when I started studying stress management, this one I found really intriguing. I had not heard of this before. Under stress is actually a form of stress. So if you think about solitary confinement, people that go into solitary confinement and have no stimuli whatsoever, how debilitating and stressful that is for them. So not being utilized in the workplace, not being visible, not being able to use your brain is definitely a stressor. I had a colleague a friend of mine, who was employed because of their background, their cultural background, and they felt that they were a tokenistic employee. They sat in the corner, were paid a massive amount of money, but did nothing, did not get to apply their skills and knowledge. And they actually found it stressful. I've been in a similar situation when I was working for a charity where I had a new manager. They didn't understand my role, my duties, my job description, didn't include me in meetings, didn't let me apply any ideas or do any work. And I was stressed coming to work every day. It's not like I was under the pump, but I was just not valued, appreciated, included, and it was really debilitating. So under stress, interestingly, is a type of stress that we can experience. Now, if we flip it and look at where the positives can be, not being stressed sometimes allows us to daydream, explore, and let our mind wander, if you want to try and find a flip for it. And if you've got any questions or comments about this as we go along, please just open up your mic or pop something in the chat. Happy to address it for you. Sometimes it can seem a little odd. Overstress, I think we all know about this one. This is where we are burning the midnight oil. We're pushing ourselves to get something done. So we might work back late, or we might work on weekends, or we stay up really late to get something done. And in small bursts, that's okay, but it can't be the new norm. We can't stretch that benchmark and keep it up there all the time. It is dangerous for us to do that. It's exhaustive. And what's really interesting, what John was really passionate about was ensuring that people had a switch off at night. Now, he would not have an electric alarm clock in his room. He even had one of those old wind-up clocks. He was really anti any technology in the bedroom so that he didn't overstress himself, and he made sure he got a really, really good sleep at night. One of the tools I'll talk about later on is making sure that you get a really, really good night's sleep. And it's the simple things that people ignore that can make a huge impact. So overstress is good in short bursts, but we don't want to be doing it all the time. Mark's got a great question. Is there any research between the interplay between overstress and motivation? Motivation is an interesting one, Mark, and perhaps Cecilia and I can have a little look at it for you later on. There's actually a great graph. I wonder if just see if I've got, it's not in my slides, but this actually comes from America. I've actually got a workbook open at the moment, and I'm going to quickly show you this. I just happened to have this open because I was doing some work. Now I've lost the Can you see that? Can you all see that Word? Can everyone see that Word document on the screen? Is that showing up? Mark,
Yeah.
can you see that? Yeah. Have you seen this before, this graph?
I've seen something similar, because what I'm really interested in is the you know, the workaholic type syndrome, where they're constantly pushing themselves and then thereby creating stress for others to try to keep up, you know.
Yeah.
And it's about how you sort of temper the motivation and into good productive sort of stuff. Yeah, rather than it being a destructive element within a team setting, for example.
Yes, that's right. Totally get. I don't know about the research, Mark, but there is there is some study, particularly coming out of Harvard Business Review, that shows that that people will get disengaged when they feel unsupported or their trust has been broken, but people will experience burnout, Mark. And so
Yeah.
what we see in the Northern Territory, I see a lot in the Northern Territory, is that people are under-resourced, they're short-staffed, and a whole range of other things. So they'll push themselves into overstress to be able to achieve it, but then that becomes a new norm and then they get motivated. So not dissimilar to what you're talking about, Mark. And there is a bit of research from WorkSafe Australia that shows that stress or burnout is becoming more prevalent in the workforce and has the longest recovery time.
Mm.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of research in that relationship between motivation and stress. What we do know is you need a little bit in order to perform, which is why we showed this, but it's where's that tipping point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Barbara.
I might see if I can find, so it's a great question. Thank you for asking that, Mark. I need to find more around that. But yeah, we do see a lot in the correlation between motivation and stress, which is why I often get called upon to do resilience training in the workplace, because it helps people have that stamina. However, what's really important, and what I always reiterate in this training and other training, is for you to recognize where your tipping point is, so that you can actually communicate with that with your place of employment. Otherwise, the more you can take on, the more that people will give you, right? So you have to be able to say, I'm at capacity, which is one of my favorite language tools. From my profession, I know what my limitations are, and I'm letting you know that I've reached those. Really important. What's Heather said? Overstress and unsafe workplaces getting traction due to costs of workers' comp claims related to this. Heather, do you want to open up your mic and expand on that a little more for us?
Hi, I don't even know why I'm not showing up on video or anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, hang on here. Probably because I'm at home and I'm in my
There
Phuket
you are.
outfit.
We can hear you. You're all good. We can hear you,
And we can
Heather.
see you.
Thank
We can
you.
see you, Heather.
Yeah, so the costs of to workers' comp claims, psychological, claims due to unsafe workplaces and other things, it they have no limit, and so they're becoming extremely costly, and they're stressing out, the insurers, because they've got to provide a huge amount of support for people, and they don't know where the support kind of stops, in a sense. Like probably places like Victoria, where they have strict limits on a workers' comp claim, but in the Northern Territory we don't. And because of this, and it's a growing issue, there are growing percentage of work comp claims, and yeah, that's why now there's pushback on having, a psychologically safe workplace. But for some employers, it makes no difference. It's a costly learning exercise. And I think what you're doing is working with managers is extremely important. But if you can actually show them some of those costs, it should scare them. But maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. The recalcitrant employers. Yeah, so that's why it's getting a lot more attention. And as you said, COVID was a factor that pushed everyone over the edge, in a sense. So I find that people in the workplace now need a lot more TLC than they ever did before. Even your good workers, you know, your strong workers who are very resilient. But I think what you've just hit on before is people not being visible, like their opinions not counting, they're undervalued. It's a very strange thing, isn't it, for a workplace when you think you'd be trying to grab everyone's capabilities and use them, but you know, some people don't feel confident perhaps as managers, and so
Yes.
don't want to be shown up.
Yeah, that's Heather, that's a really good point. And it's almost like it's contagious. John would talk about the pheromones that we release when we're stressed. And as a species, we are a tribal species. So we move in packs. So what that means is, Heather, if I'm in a pack with you and I'm picking up that you're stressed, that could mean that there's a tiger around. If you're stressed, do I need to be stressed too in order to stay alive? We're primed to do that. And I see it with conflict resolution. I hear from people that have gone through mediation, and afterwards their colleagues have said, oh my goodness, it's such a better place to work in now, and it's so much more productive now that those people have resolved their conflict. And when people quickly move into positions of management but don't have the leadership skills yet, which is a common flaw that we see everywhere, they then have this fear out of not being in control is one thing that we sometimes see. So that is a breeding ground for micromanagement. I'm going to micromanage you just to make sure that things get done and get done well. Otherwise, I'm going to cop it if I don't. So I'm going to micromanage you, and that creates conflict. So it is this snowballing effect of so many things, which is what Cecilia and I talk about a lot in terms of communication, change management, resilience. All of those things come into play to be able to support a psychologically safe workplace. And like you said, Heather, psychological safety is not just about mental well-being. It's me feeling safe to be able to raise concerns, have a safe conflict with you, have a difference of opinion, identify any risks. All of those things are really important for a healthy workplace. Yeah, there's some great questions and feedback there from everyone. I appreciate that. I'm just going to move on to the last one, which we all know, which is distress. This is the one that keeps us alive. When we've got that crocodile chasing us, we need to be able to run really fast, or we need to be able to stop and fight that crocodile. So distress is what we need to stay alive and on top of our game in those stressful situations. What happens when we're in distress is that cortisol is a stress hormone that pumps into our system to ensure that we're getting adrenaline, that all the things that we don't need in our body get shut down, and we are primed into action. Now, there's a part of our brain, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, that is like an alarm center that goes, threat, 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 and it triggers all of that hormonal response. So most people are familiar with distress, and we don't want to be in a state of distress all the time, but it is also helping us to quickly navigate, for example, a conflict in the workplace, or run from a crocodile, quickly cross the road when a car is speeding up towards us. It's those things that help us quickly go into action. So just to reframe everything that I've just discussed with you in terms of raising your awareness around the stress, you can see these, as I said, moving backwards. These are the lights on the dashboard telling us the engine's overheated. This is what's causing the problem, and this is how we might experience it in that moment, the different types of stress. So what we can do is hack our brain. I'm going to share with you, most people may have heard what's called the amygdala hijack. And Professor Ian Robertson, who comes from his chair of psychology at the Institute of Neuroscience in Dublin, he really coins this really well, but a lot of neuroscientists will say this now. we can actually use stress to our advantage. And when we do, we perform really, really well. We can actually be brighter and innovative. The trick is be able to hack our brain. It's about using that flight or taking over that flight or fight response and making it work for you. So he talks about cortisol and adrenaline and utilizing that before it's out of control. Most people will have seen or heard something along these lines. This is you've probably heard of the reptilian brain. You can put a yes. Has anyone heard of the reptilian brain before? A yes in the chat or a no? Tell me if you've heard of this. A lot of people have heard of this. Sharon, you haven't heard of it. Cool. So if we think about us, compare us to other species and how we function and how our brain functions, and as a species, how we stay alive. So the reptilian brain is just that primal function. It's just us staying alive. It is not using all the other features of our brain. And what researchers will often talk about is us going back into our reptilian brain. We're just operating out of instinct. So you've seen sometimes in those prank videos where someone gets a scare and they immediately punch the person or something that's frightened them. That's probably them going into that reptilian brain, just the fight or flight response. And what's really interesting, I say, about crocodiles and lizards and things like that, they don't have the production of oxytocin. So they're not emotive. We don't cuddle lizards and crocodiles and snakes. We don't see through their body when they're happy or they're sad. They just operate out of instinct. However, with cats and dogs, and horses, we see a bit more of an emotion with them. So they actually produce oxytocin. I'll tell you a funny story about this. My son, who I would say is an empath, he's very emotive, sensitive, emotionally intelligent, kind, gentle boy. He has he's an adult, he's 21. He has a pet bearded dragon. And I never thought I would be enamored to a lizard, but I am. And we sit there and we pat it and we talk to it and say hello. And I said to my son, you realize us patting this lizard does absolutely nothing for this lizard. It doesn't produce oxytocin. It's for our benefit only. And he said to me, Mum, I know my lizard doesn't love me, but he knows that I'm his source of food and comfort, and that's all that counts to me. So it was more the oxytocin was being produced, which they call the cuddle hormone, by us touching this lizard. So when we go into that middle brain, that's what's kicking into gear. And the difference, we apparently are the only species that has this developed part of the brain that can override this part. We can override these things. Now, what's really interesting about dogs and cats and horses, we can train them, right? They have an emotive memory. They have an emotive association with things from their past. And I'll explain to you where that fits in the brain. This is a little bit more complex. So this is the sciencey stuff, but the Stress-Proof Brain is a brilliant book that helps you understand how our brain is functioning in these situations, what is going on with our brain and how it operates. So the amygdala, which we talk about, the amygdala hijack, I think of this like a smoke alarm. The amygdala does not know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. It's just picking up on signals. So it's a bit like a smoke alarm in your house. When the smoke alarm is going off in your house, it doesn't know if there's a fire or if it's burnt toast. It just knows that there's smoke. And we have to fan the alarm and go, it's not a fire, it's just burnt toast. So that's what the amygdala is like. And it's a very primal part of our brain, but it's just an alarm center. The hypothalamus, that's just the operations manager. That's just firing off all the hormones. I don't go into too much detail about that one. But the hippocampus, that is the part of the brain that relies on memory to inform us about risk. So, for example, when I'm talking about animals being trained, my dog is a rescue dog. She's around me sometimes. She makes an appearance when I'm doing this training. She's a rescue dog, and I think she was abused in her last life because whenever we first got her, anytime we used a broom, she would run and hide. So she was probably belted by a broom. And there's a part of her brain that's going, broom pain, broom pain. I'll give you another analogy to help you understand how the hippocampus works in terms of our habits and our instinctive thinking. I know, Cecilia, it does sound horrible. I don't know that that's true, but that's what I suspect happened with her. Let me tell you this story. This is not true, but let's just say I'm walking through the forest and I see a cave. And when I see that cave, I go into the cave, go down the back of the cave, and don't know, but there's actually a bear in the cave. And I fight off the bear. I barely make it out alive, after fighting this bear. The next time I'm walking through the forest, I see another cave. And in my mind, I say, caves. Caves equal bears. Bears are dangerous. Don't go into that cave. There could be a bear in there. And I know for anyone that's in Australia and watches Play School, that would have just triggered a response in you. And then, which is a kids show. Yeah, thought some of you would get that. And then let's just say I'm walking through a building site and there's a big shed and the door to the shed is open. I'm at work now and it's very dark inside that shed. I don't know why, but I'm feeling very scared and nervous of that shed. There's a part of my brain that is saying, that feels a little bit like a cave. You know what happened last time you went into a cave? So where this comes into play in the workforce is that based on your past experiences, past jobs, things that happened to you growing up, there can be things triggering off in your brain that are putting you into a stress response and you don't know why. So we have to work hard to override what's happening in our brain. Psychologists do some work around that, particularly around PTSD with cognitive brain therapy. So we do a little bit of that, not that we're psychologists, but we help people reframe situations so they're better able to cope. I'm going to talk to you more about that in a moment. The prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO stepping in and going, okay, everybody calm down. Let's override all of this narrative and get things into order. That's what we can tap into to be able to help us hijack that flight or fight response. We are a unique species that can do that. So I'm going to show you some tools that you can apply to be able to do that amygdala hijack, make the stress work for you. Bit of homework for you that you can check out. There's Kelly McGonigal does this amazing TED talk. Oh my goodness, it is so good. When I was studying with the Stress Management Institute, this was a foundation of our training. I still use it. It is one of TED Talk's most popular talks. So bit of homework for you. Kelly McGonigal, and the talk is called How to Make Stress Your Friend. She's a psychologist that used to be anti-stress until she started studying it. But she found some really, really interesting things through the research. And I'm just going to paraphrase very quickly some key things for you to take away. They did this was a study that was done with Yale University, and they studied 30,000 adults, and it was an 8-year study. And they asked them 2 questions. How much stress have you had in the last year? This is really important, these 2 questions. How much stress have you had in the last year? Oh, thanks, Cecilia. She's dropped the YouTube video in the chat there for you. And the second question is, do you believe that stress is harmful to your health? And when they looked at some of the research and they looked at the death records, right? They found that those that believed stress was harmful had a 43% increased risk of dying. And those who did not believe this actually had a lower death rate than the average. They were even healthier. So what this shows us is that there is a significant correlation between how you think about stress and your health. So what Kelly talks about is when you change your mind about stress, you can actually change your body's response. What they also did, this was really interesting, this other research they did, they had a group of people and they told these people, there was two groups. One group, they're putting them into a stressful situation. They both knew that they were going into a stressful situation. Now, with the first group, they said, you're going to be really stressed. We're going to try and increase your stress. However, when you feel your heart pounding, if your breath increases, you might break out into a sweat. When you experience that, that is normal. That is okay. You need to know that that is your body priming you into action. It's putting your body into gear in order to help you manage the situation. And be okay with that. Just know that your body is looking after you to be able to support that. The second group, they said, they didn't tell them anything. They just said you're gonna feel stressed, and that's the goal. With the first group, they explained to them why their body does that. Your pounding heart is getting oxygen, the rapid breathing is getting oxygen to your brain. These are how the hormones work. So this is your body working for you. This is what was really interesting. This is the evidence that how you think about stress changes your body's response to stress. What they found is that in a stress response, you're in a stress response, your blood vessels contract. This is what Kelly talks about. But for those people who were told that stress was normal and that their body was actually priming them to deal with this situation, their blood vessels were relaxed. They were actually relaxed. And what Kelly talks about, which I find really interesting, is she said, this is also what your blood vessels look like in moments of joy, but also courage. And remember, courage is an interesting word because courage is not about being absent of fear. It is about doing something despite the fear and knowing that you will be able to deal with the consequences. And Kelly says that what the research is telling us, it's better to have all the tools and know that stress can be a good thing for you and creates meaning in your life if you use it rather than avoiding it. I find really, really interesting. So the tool here is that when you are feeling those symptoms of stress, you need to just remind yourself that this is your body helping you to rise to the challenge. And when you view stress in this way, your body believes you, your mind believes you, and you approach the situation in a much healthier way. And our body also produces oxytocin, which is referred to as the cuddle hormone. We produce it when we kiss and cuddle and touch and we're intimate. And there's been a lot of contemporary research about oxytocin. We produce oxytocin when we're stressed because it's actually priming our body to reach out and connect with people. So here's a tip. If you have a dog or a cat at home, type a yes in the chat if you've got a dog or cat at home. Kelly's got both. Woohoo! Congratulations, people. You have oxytocin producing machines at home. A dog, Sharon. Yeah. So here's a tip. If Melanie's got both. Awesome. If you have a stressful day, one of the best things you can do is go and spend some time with your cat or dog. If you can spend time with a person, oxytocin on demand. Yeah. They really produce oxytocin. So when you pat a dog or cuddle a cat or a dog, then you are producing oxytocin and they're producing oxytocin, and those pheromones get released. Plants are also good as well. Yes, Cecilia, research shows even a plant in your office or a picture. Remember those posters that used to have waterfalls and forests and affirmations? The reason they were so popular is the research shows that we release dopamines when we're in nature. So even just looking at one can release those. So best thing you can do is two birds with one stone. When you get home, take the dog for a walk outside, dopamines and oxytocin. Easy, see? great tool. Dogs licking you, that's them producing massive amounts of oxytocin. They do that because they learn as puppies that their mums used to lick them. Same with cats. They did that to be able to nurture their babies. So these are all what we can do is just lots of little things that can pump out these helpful hormones and slow down these. Just those simple tools that I've already given you. Walking outside, changing the way you think about stress, physical touch, those things can make a huge impact. We release and serotonin, laughing and smiling. Simple, right? Really, really be around people that are going to stimulate that for you. So, emotional resilience. I'm going to talk to you about what that is and how we can utilize that. It's a common thing that I get asked to deliver in the workplace. Yeah, Kelly, it is 40 degrees here. So what's really interesting, Kelly, is that the WorkSafe Australia recognises that your environment has an impact on your psychological safety. So extreme temperatures can have an impact on your mental well-being. However, I can say when I got off the plane in Alice Springs last night after being in the freezing southwest of Australia, and I saw the super moon setting over the ranges in Alice Springs, and I got off the plane, I went, that warm feeling. So maybe, yeah, walk the dog. It's like a warm bath, Cecilia, getting off the plane. Maybe, Kelly, you can take the dog for a walk in the evening. Sunset, beautiful. So what are the traits that we need to aspire to? And I want you to write down, I'm going to show you the top 7. Research often shows 7 or 14. There's a high number, but these are probably the most popular traits that you want to zero in. And I want you to think about what are the ones I already have and what are the ones that I can focus a little more on. And to give you that example, I'm going to show you, I'm going to use Turia Pitt as an example. Does everyone know, has everyone heard of, again, yes or no in the chat, have you heard of Turia Pitt or heard of her story? Yes or no? Some of you, if you're outside of Australia, you may not. Most of you have. So Turia survived an incredible disaster. She was caught in a bushfire when she was a marathon runner. She had been a model, had been studying for engineering, and was caught in this horrific fire. You can see, look how dynamic she is in that photo. I met her at a OBM, October Business Month event many years ago. My husband says I look like a serial killer in this photo, that I look like I'm about to stalk her or something, but I was very excited to meet her. Now, she's a great example of the resilience. She had burns to 96% of her body. There was no skin left on her body to skin graft. They had to get skin donors in order for her to survive. So, and a lot of her survival is not only because she was healthy, but she had been trained as a marathon runner for resilience. She had been trained her mind, and it was also her mindset that helped her survive. In her memoirs, the surgeons said it's extraordinary. We haven't seen anything like it, and attributed a lot of it to her mindset. So I'm going to go through the 7 common traits. Optimism. This is about allowing yourself to look at the opportunities and the positive outcomes. No worries, Nicola. Yes, we will send you, Nicola has to go. We do have a cheat sheet that will come out. If you want the recording of this, please just let us know and we'll make it available to you. So no worries if you have to go. Thanks for letting us know. If optimism is just being able to shift that perspective, so looking at things and perspective is the other one as well. Being able to see the opportunity. So optimism is being positive And perspective is seeing the opportunity that comes out of this. So for Taria, she was told she would not walk, let alone run. So for Taria, it was always about setting those short goals and seeing the wins and the opportunities. In terms of perspective, she also was able to change her career trajectory. She was going to be an engineer. She is now a coach, a motivational coach for leaders to be able to teach them resilience. She is an advocate for skin donors and skin repair around the world and burns recovery. She is also a fitness instructor, so she doesn't do engineering anymore. She actually took a disadvantage and flipped it into an opportunity by shifting her perspective. Classic example of when life gives you lemons, turn it into lemonade. The perseverance for her was, I think, a lot of that came from her training as a marathon runner. She talks about when people get burnt, it's not, the most painful part is not during the burning, it's afterwards in the recovery. And that's when people typically die, is afterwards. Their immune system is compromised, trying to recover, and it is so excruciatingly painful having those dressings changed all the time. Taria said it was like having a skin ripped off every couple of days in changing those dressings. So she had to set small milestones in order to support her perseverance through that. The emotional awareness, Cecilia and I often do training and talk about emotional intelligence. So her emotional awareness was being able to understand her own emotions, but also of those around her. She had to deal with kids that were distressed at seeing her appearance, her family seeing her appearance. When she was rescued, the lady that was in the rescue helicopter was actually a colleague and who would volunteer with fire and rescue. When they found Taria, the woman didn't recognize Taria because she was so badly burnt. And when she finally worked out who Taria was, she was incredibly distressed. So that was the first time that Taria had to deal with the emotions of other people as well as her own emotions. This one is a big one. The support is, research shows that those people who are most resilient are comfortable with asking for help. And it's a common thing that I see when I'm coaching people, that people see support as a sign of weakness. They think that they're incompetent if they have to ask for help, but it's quite the contrary. If you know where your limitations are and when you need to raise your hand and say, I am drowning here, I need some help, that shows a sign of professionalism, because you know your own capacity and limitations. You know your breaking point, and that is far more respectful than waiting until things fall apart and collapse. So research has been done with children that have survived traumatic situations and succeeded in their adult life. And a common trait with those children is being able to pull in their supports and knowing who their supports are. Taria, if you ever see her speak, has an incredible sense of humor. And I think sometimes things are just so bad you have to go, this is nuts. This is crazy. Only in this place would things happen like this. I can't believe this has happened and this has happened. You have to sometimes just laugh at the situation. I often speak on cruise ships, and I was with my mum speaking on a cruise ship, and our luggage got lost and we didn't know if we were ever going to see it again. We had 2 hours to buy a whole heap of supplies. It was so crazy. All we could do was laugh at the situation. In buying 2 hours to buy all our clothes, we of course bought all the same clothes, and we laughed and said we look like we're in a cult, mother and daughter walking around in the same clothes. And then there is choice. Choice is about what you have a choice to do things in the moment. You can make a choice. Dr. Judy Hinwood says that sometimes choosing not to choose is a choice. You have the right to change your mind if you want to. It's how you approach the situation. Tony Robbins says that it is either our perspective or our process that we're changing. We're making a choice in that moment. And so being clear about your choices. Homework for you. Another thing too, a little bit of homework, the serenity prayer. If anyone knows that one. It's a great prayer that is used by Alcoholics Anonymous and it goes along the lines of, God, grant me the serenity to know what's in my control and what's not, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, something along those lines, because it's very powerful for our resilience. All of this is about energy management, managing our energy and utilizing our energy to our advantage. So one of the best things that we can do is control our breath. Now we breathe every day, right? You go, well, I do that all the time, but control breath is so powerful. In fact, it is used in the military, SAS, teach people how to do controlled breath. Dr. Judy will talk about, just remember low and slow. Low and slow, nice deep breathing. We want the lower our breath is, we're going to feel our hands moving in and out on our chest if we place them on our belly. That's what I like to do. By having low sleep, deep breath, we are also stimulating our vagus nerve, which helps our brain and our body function. So what Cecilia's found, grant me this, God, insert your power. Yes, God, greater power. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Oh, it's such a beautiful prayer. I can never remember those words, but it's so powerful. Thanks, Cecilia, for looking that up. I'll give you a few other things that you can do, some other cool breathing tips. Really, really simple. Blowing raspberries. Sometimes we just do it instinctively, right? Or a sigh. That is controlled, regulated breath. It's a great one to do with toddlers when they're in that reptilian brain. So we can do that in really, really stressful moments. Another one that is very contemporary is to do 2 short inhales and 1 long exhale. So it releases tension, Cecilia says, yeah. So you've probably seen people that are hyperventilating, they're going, that's a natural body response. So what we can do to trigger that stimulus and stimulate the vagus nerve, 2 short intakes, 1 long outtake. So it's you can try that one. And the other one is box breathing as well, which I'll explain to you in just a moment. This is the one that military train to help people control in intense situations. But if you can control your breath, you're actually triggering those hormonal responses in your system. Now, all of these tools, hopefully you've written them down, but they also will be in the cheat sheet. So I'm just going to share with you, Noga Nidra has some good breathing exercises as well. So this is a little TikTok. I'm just going to stop sharing so I can share the video for you. The sound, it's a great example of the box breathing. Oops, I'm sharing the wrong screen. This one, there we go. Okay.
Most people believe that Navy SEALs are just people that are able to handle stress better than other people, like it's an innate ability. But in reality, it's not. It's something that is trained during SEAL training, and as a candidate, if you aren't able to master stress management, you really can't be a Navy SEAL, and it comes out in training. And so the exercise that we use to prepare ourselves for high stress situations, whether that's a training exercise or combat, is a thing called box breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you use your diaphragm to do it, you hold that breath for 4 seconds, then you breathe out on a slow 4 count for another 4 seconds, and then you hold with all the air out of your lungs for 4 seconds. And you repeat that loop 5 or 6 times, and what that does is it turns down your sympathetic reaction, which is the fight or flight reaction, and it turns up your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest, relaxation, peace, and it restores harmony to mind and body. Give it a shot.
So there you go. You don't need to take my word for it. It's used by as I said, used by in the US and Australia to help them to function in those stressful situations. If you're interested in this, there's also a man by the name of Dr. Dan Pronk, who Pronk. He wrote a book called The Resilience Shield, and he was in the Special Air Service Regiment, SASR. And he did 4 deployments in Afghanistan as a combat doctor. And same thing, he talked about box breathing as well. So don't underestimate the power. There's a reason the military teach people how to do this. The other thing is really important is sleep. The research shows that if we don't get enough sleep, that it really impacts upon our brain function. When we go into REM sleep, our brain actually releases some of the protein buildup that we have. That same protein that is associated with Alzheimer's. So it is really important that we get good quality sleep to help our brain release the toxins, but also the unnecessary cognitive synapses that are built up throughout the day that we don't need. So important. And for those that don't get enough sleep, they have higher levels of cortisol and long-term health impacts, Alzheimer's being the worst. There's a correlation between that now. So don't underestimate the power of that. Melatonin is the hormone that we produce to help us go into that sleep state. Some people will take tablets and supplements of melatonin to help improve their sleep. But what's really interesting about melatonin is that it is triggered in our system with optical receptors. And what will trigger the release of melatonin is the absence of blue light. Because as a species, tribal species, when the sun goes down, there's no longer blue light around us. And if you've ever gone camping and you go, oh my goodness, it's only 8 o'clock and I'm so tired already. It's because we're primed, very much primed to that environment around us. So normally about 2 hours after the absence of blue light, that we will the melatonin will kick into gear. So if you've got an air conditioner or a TV or anything with a little blue light in your bedroom, cover it off. Put some tape over it. That's why you should also, after 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, turn off the blue in your phone or any devices that you might be using. Because it's basically that little blue light on your air conditioner is saying to your brain, get up, the sun's getting up, you've got to go and hunt and gather, the sun's coming up over the horizon. All right, I'm just mindful of time, so we're going to keep moving through these tools. The cylinder tool, John and Judy's really most popular tool. It is the classic amygdala hijacked. We know that words can really trigger us. People can say things that can really impact us, either make us really stressed or really angry, offended. All of those things can happen very, very easily and trigger us into that fight or flight response, even though they're only words. So what we can do is this is where we trick our amygdala. Our amygdala, remember, does not know what is real and what's not. It doesn't know the difference. So what we can do is visualize a cylinder of protection around us, a shield of protection, and visualize those words hitting the shield and bouncing off, basically going, ha ha ha, you can't get me, those words can't hurt me. Look, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but it's enough to give you a bit of braking distance. It's enough for you to go and then respond. It just helps slow things down just a fraction so you can be more responsive rather than reactive. So don't dismiss it because it's a visualization tool. It's really, really powerful and very, very popular. Very popular with those people that experience encounter stress. Detaching is what the psychologists will often talk about in terms of recovering from an immediate stressful response. So even if you've had a difficult phone call, it's not somebody in your physical space, detach. You will function much better if you go and take a break. Go and have a cup of tea. Go outside and look at some plants. I say to people, take your shoes off and put your feet on the grass or in the sand. Go and do some deep breathing. And if you can't do any of those things, go into the toilet cubicle and do some low and slow breaths. Do some box breathing. Detaching is really, really powerful. A stress response is to ruminate, is to go over and over and over in your head and relive that experience. So psychologists will often talk about ways that you can detach from an experience. And if you can do that, that you will have a better bounce back. You'll bounce back much quicker. Judy likes to use this as a great affirmation to help you release something. She often talks about visualizing the stop sign to stop those unhelpful thoughts creeping back in. They want to come back in. It's, nope, stop. You're not coming into my brain. And then she will say, I'm going to release that. I'm going to let it go and I'm going to move on. Just let it go. So hopefully you've written down some useful tools to be able to help you with that. What we're going to do in just a moment is with Cecilia and I like to give away. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen for a moment. Anyone that comes to these masterclasses know that we like to give you a gift to say thank you for staying with us and continuing the learning. So what we're going to do in just a moment is a little wheel that'll spin around and it'll land on somebody's name, and that person is going to get a book. And I'm just going to grab the book. My camera might follow me, but if it doesn't, just hang tight. And I'm going to grab the book out of my bookcase. This is the book I would like to give to one lucky person. It is the book that I referred to called The Stress-Proof Brain that I mentioned before, that the science behind stress, such a good book if you're interested to be able to understand how stress works. So I'm going to change my Zoom settings, Cecilia, so you can share your screen. Are you ready to go, Cecilia?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
You're free to
All
share
right.
your screen now.
Yes. Okay. Can you all see my screen? There we go. Oh, I gotta put the sound on. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. The sound's the best part.
Clear sound. Okay. Okay, let's go. Quite a few people dropped off. They left early. So if we pick them, too bad.
Is Gigi
I
still here?
believe she left early. So here we go again. I'm going to take Gigi off. Okay. Oh, Kate also. Okay, I have to move.
Ah,
Yep, remove.
this is where you got to stay. Oh, Gigi's still in there. Okay. Karen! Yay!
Karen's on a roll.
Karen won it last time, didn't he?
He won last week.
Ah!
Karen, you are on a roll. You're on a lucky streak. You should go and buy a lottery ticket
Lotto
or something.
ticket, yeah.
It's rigged.
It's rigged.
Congratulations, Karen.
All right. Thank you. So yes, if you do want recordings of this, you can get it on request. We will send you out a cheat sheet with a summary plus some worksheets later on. So look out for our emails. Make sure they're not going to your junk, because the point of this is for you to apply the learning. We want you to be able to apply what you've learned. Do you apply the stress tools? Have they worked? Have you adapted them? Have you used something else? Have you found some more research? Mark, if you find any research about motivation, please share it with us. We're always looking for more research. The other thing that's really important to us, thank you, Mark. The other thing that's really important to us is that we do this because we want to give value to our community and build our reputation. So it's really important that you share with others what you've learnt. Share the resources, share the worksheets, tell them to come along to these masterclasses so that they can get value as well. Does anyone, we've got a couple of minutes to spare. Does anyone have any questions? Helen and Karen, you've done this quite a few times. Have you got any feedback on these tools? Have you been able to apply them in the workplace? Helen, you should be an expert by now.
Yeah, breathing probably. I've tried to get a bit better with doing that one.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And both of you have such a beautiful location. You can go step outside of the office very quickly and be very engaged in nature straight away.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you, Karen?
I was going to say the breathing exercises has helped for one of our hotter-headed workers. He's actually seems to be a lot calmer than what he's been in the past. But from all accounts this morning, I don't think the breathing worked too well for him. Yeah. So
You can
no.
loan him some books, Karen.
Yeah. Highlight some lines for him. Cecilia's just said insight timer for guided meditations and breathing exercises, and they're all free.
Yeah.
And
All
yoga
free.
nidra. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Does anyone else have any comments, any thoughts, any questions, any tools that they like to use and they would share? Anyone use the box breathing before?
Yeah.
You've used box breathing, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frequently.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. And look, there's a lot of research that shows the correlation to, particularly with anxiety, how important. I know for me, when I'm going to sleep at night, that's probably when I get really, really anxious. And I have to remind myself to pause, to park it and go, think about this tomorrow, because today you weren't worried about it, only now when you're going to sleep. No worries, Heather.
Bye,
Thank
Sharon.
you. Thank you, Sharon. And then the next thing I do is the deep breathing, and that really helps me regulate in terms of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I will say to you too, I'm just going to share my screen quickly again. In terms of following up on any information, you are welcome to connect with either Cecilia or myself. You can look up my LinkedIn profile. I'm really active on LinkedIn. Cecilia's also on LinkedIn, and we're on social media. You're welcome to reach out and book in a call with either of us and have a chat. If you've got value from today, I'd love it if you can give us a Google review or a LinkedIn review, or give us any feedback, because this supports us in getting that word out as well. So, but stay connected with us. It doesn't always have to be just in these masterclasses as well. That's a QR code for Google review if you want to use that. Anyone have any other questions or comments? Have I missed anything? What's
Peter?
Cecilia saying?
Goodbye, guys. Thank you
All
very much.
right,
All
no
right.
problem. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Peter.
All
No, I
right.
was just saying that we have tools to measure when it's motivational, where it's actually a strength, and then how does it
Ah,
turn into an overextension and a stressor? So
with
we're
the
able to measure that. Yes.
with Lumina, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Is that what you're
Yes.
referring to? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good point, Cecilia.
If you have someone in mind, Mark, that you feel is creating stress for others, there's an opportunity to create a profile for this person to see the data on the stress triggers. And when it is a strength, it's actually very motivating and it produces results. And then at what point is that fine line where it becomes destructive and it negatively influences the people around this person? And
Any
I can
other
send you a
thoughts?
sample.
Thanks, Cecilia. Yeah, reach out if you'd like that
Yeah.
one.
just in my own work in human resources, I mean, the biggest, most chronic and distressing aspect of dealing with conflict between people is when one or more of them won't let go of it.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
keeps resurfacing and comes back harder and stronger, and is very contagious. And then
Yes.
the usual thing of sides being taken and stuff like that. And half the time it's over something that's quite trivial or simply a difference of opinion. But as adults, they can't walk away from it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
We have ways to get around that, and also a different approach, because if we tackle it from that approach only, talking about that situation, it's always this back and forth and he said, she said, nobody wins, and people just double down because they want to be right. But instead we pull out and looking at it from another angle, and we look at personality awareness, but just some objective data, and that helps for people to understand each other and to increase the empathy and to know that you are not who you are. It's only when you are stressed or when you are under pressure that you are this way. And then there's a deeper understanding about the many facets of who we are.
Yeah.
Cecilia,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. Kelly just put a comment in the chat as well to say that she appreciated. She said, "I'd like to thank Cecilia for the advice she gave me last week. It really did help with a difficult conversation I had to have with a team member." You know, you've got to log off. No problem. Yeah, no problem. Renee.
I wanted to follow up with you, Kelly. Just I'm so glad to hear it went well, or a little bit better. It helped.
Yeah, it's an ongoing monitoring situation, but the actual meeting, I made some notes after our one-on-one discussion and put it into use, and I think it really helped guide the conversation. So thank you.
Done. Well done.
Yeah. We're here if you would like to chat further, if you'd like some more support. We have a lot of resources.
I got you on short dial.
Okay. That's great. Glad to hear that, Kelly.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Yeah, we'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time. Okay, bye, Renee. Renee logged off.
Yeah,
Great to see
Renee's
all
gone.
of you.
See, thank you very
Congratulations
much.
again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye again.
I got to go to more of these just to win stuff.
I'm going to beat him one day.
It's not a chook raffle, Karen. Like we don't have a meat tray or anything like that.
You're on a roll, so why not?
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Take care.
Alrighty, or better stop recording.
Woohoo!
Hang
Woohoo!
on. Let me stop recording. Hang on.
Well done, Barb.
You sure you want to stop
We
recording?